You know, we usually blame our founders, the founding fathers, when we have some problems. But I think we do not always take into account adequately their contributions. And I find, to my very pleasant surprise, if you look at the 4 founding fathers, I'm just picking up 4 of them at random, so to say, you will find each one of them has emphasized one dimension of modernity. None has exhausted all aspects of modernity. And to the extent they have emphasized one or another aspect of modernity, one can legitimately speak of multiple modernities. Let me illustrate my argument with reference to 4 founding fathers of sociology: Durkheim, Weber, Marx, and Simmel. Incidentally, excepting the first, the other 3 are Germans. Now, Durkheim located the source of modernity in structural differentiation, Weber in rationalization, Marx in the history-making project, and Simmel in modern life. I think I need to elaborate each of these a little. The notion of structural differentiation visualized social transformation as a movement from simple to complex, from tradition to modernity. This was very well celebrated in sociology. Sociology has in fact become a discipline of dichotomies: Gemeinschaft, Gesellschaft, simple to complex, rural to urban, you know, all that. Now, this structural differentiation, according to Durkheim's argument, was brought about through A, occupational differentiation and division of labor; B, diversification and heterogeneity; and C, plurality and the gradual evolving of a complex social network and interdependence. Now, what is the result of this process? In the end, each society becomes different from the other, less and less self-sufficient, more and more specialized, and consequently increased interdependence and complementarity between them. This is a process at work. Now, how does this modernity differ from that of Weber? According to Weber, rationalization is a process which is bound up with the disenchantment of the world, the demystification of the world. Understandably, unforeseeable forces no longer interfere in social affairs. Everything is defined less and less in relation to God and more in relation to society. In such a situation, reason and reality are isomorphic. Understandably, the rationalization process results in increasing fit between the means and the ends. Science and technology, rather than religion and magic, becomes crucial. Capitalism is the embodiment of rationality, and modern capitalism has its essence in modernity. So this is the argument of Weber. Now, a few points may be noted here in taking Weber and Durkheim together. First, structural differentiation between state, market, and civil society was not a feature of socialist societies, the second world. I referred to that earlier. And therefore, we have some difficulty to use the Durkheimian understanding in order to explain the modernity of the second world. I'm gradually working towards the rationale of the notion of multiple modernities. Secondly, while rationality did increase in modern societies, there is no evidence whatsoever to show that irrationality or irrationality has completely disappeared. It wasn't a displacement syndrome. Look at the kind of things which are happening, whether it's in Bosnia or in Kashmir Valley. We cannot rationally explain that. Thirdly, what was common to both Durkheim and Weber, or to their modernities, is that they assumed that the traditional collectivism will be displaced with modern individualism. Now, certainly the conscious individual is a creator of history who interrogates all established social relationships. But this cannot remain an individual project. The voluntarism of individuals should find its expression in collective modernity. It's a mobilization process, and that manifesting in the working class movements, eventuating in revolution, giving birth to a new society. Now, this is the Marxian project of making history. This is a project of modernization. But gradually, as we know by now, it was unfolded that modern collectivism has non-class antagonisms: gender, race, nation, generations, or what have you. So, the confrontations between these categories are usually referred to as post-class and often called new social movements today. Now, let's also remind ourselves that the Marxian version of modernity gave birth to socialist societies, and the party state became very powerful. So much so, it became undemocratic and authoritarian, hence not simply non-modern, but anti-modern. So here I've started looking at the modernity of the Second World as something very, 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 very antithesis of modernity. Further, as I told you, non-class collectivisms of all varieties for all practical purposes have been delegitimized in the socialist countries, socialist world. They are dismissed as a resultant of false consciousness. And that's why we have had a large number of national movements in multinational socialist states which have never been recognized, ultimately leading to the very breakup of the Second World. Witness what has happened in Soviet Union, in Yugoslavia, in Czechoslovakia. Now let me very briefly refer to the fourth modernity that I want to talk about, that of Simmel's. Now Simmel's understanding of modernity was somewhat different. He looked at modern lifestyles. To him, modernity implies changes in perceptions of space and time and the speed of exchange. Now, according to Simmel, this happened mainly in cities. Money assumes great significance as a symbol of movement, circulation, and transactions. Now, as you know, with credit cards, even the disadvantages of different state currencies are done away with. Now, it's very important and interesting for you to note that of all the four modernities that I talked about, Simmel's notion of modernity comes very close to the notion of modernity in the context of globalization that we are talking about. In other words, that brand of modernity is very close to cultural globalization, because globality is defined as shrinkage of space and time.